a reading from my new book, Confessions of a Retired Tango Teacher. Stick around in the middle of the story where I'll show you how to get the book absolutely free of charge. Today's tiny little taste of my tango life, just a taste, comes from the story, The Guy with the Funny Name. Let's get into it.
A youngish man walked into my lesson for the first time. I'd seen him in practicas and milongas around town. He had that air of up and coming. He stood about 6 foot, trim build, V-shape, long curly brown hair, kept in a nice mane, and a 4 o'clock shadow. He had tailored shirts and slacks, but scuffed up men's shoes that you get at a secondhand store. His name was Swan, spelled like D-W-A-N, Dwan. In his language, it meant one who was honest and trustworthy. Swan was insanely good-looking and had all the ladies talking about him. If it weren't for his fiancée, he'd have a trail of women following around behind him. That would happen anyways for multiple reasons. To add insult to the male ego, he was also fucking brilliant. He held 2 doctorates and was also a practicing surgeon on sabbatical. When he walked into my class, he was working on his 3rd doctorate in biometrics. Tango was just what Swan was doing for fun. He had a mind like a steel trap, and we got into his brain more often than not. It was actually Swan that corrected me on my understanding of anatomy and physiology. He would pull me aside between explanations of tango technique and correct me on the functions of bones, muscles, and tendons. He knew I had a penchant for language and getting things right. However, at the same time, he was also exceptionally polite. He knew what I meant, but didn't want to embarrass me in front of the class. That was a testament to his character. When he came in, he took off his shoes like everybody else, because in my class, I didn't require shoes. Students, however, did need socks, though. His socks were silk. At this point in my tango teaching life, I was teaching 3 days a week, Mondays and Wednesday nights from 6 to 10, and Saturday afternoons from 1 to 5. I usually taught 3 sessions, beginner, intermediate, and specialty, but I taught them in reverse order, specialty class first, then intermediate and beginner class, and then a practica afterwards. I would ask the specialty folks to stick around for the intermediate class at no charge to help out, and when the intermediate class was done, I'd ask both groups to help out with the beginner class at no charge, and usually I had about 50 people in the beginner class. The goal was to help the advanced dancers help themselves to clean up their foundation while at the same time not insulting them to go back and revisit their foundation. This lesson on this night was an advanced class on the social volcata. This is a small volcata that fits within the line, lane, and progression of dance. I taught these kinds of lessons mostly to bring in students. It was not the bulk of what I wanted to teach. Swan brought his fiancée, or should I say, she brought him. And as he would later tell me, she got him into tango, because he was, as she put it, too stiff and rigid, and tango would loosen him up. She was wrong about that. Tango wouldn't loosen him up. I would. Class began with 13 couples dancing around the room to warm up. Then I started with a few exercises to set up the volcata idea and its technique. Then I described the idea and the practice of carpa and how to generate it safely. Then I moved into the crossing step of the volcata, and finally to the follower's technique. I would later revise the order of how this is taught because the follower's technique is what makes the volcata possible. During each working segment, after the technique explanation, Swan's fiancée kept nagging at him to do this or that. He wasn't flustered, but he was definitely not getting the full measure of what I was on about. So I decided I'd had enough of her nagging, and I deliberately broke them up in the rotation, and I praised her with Fred so that he could actually learn something. She then got very polite after that. When class was over and I asked people to stick around for the intermediate session, the fiancé left, thank God, and Swan stayed. He actually stayed through both classes and then through the end of the practica. I usually went out for burritos with students afterwards.
And that, my friends, is just a tiny little taste of what happens inside my new book. Sadly, you'll have to go buy the book to find out what happened next. I know I kind of sort of left you hanging there, didn't I? Oops! How did I survive? Where did I go? What happened next? Craziness! These burning questions and more will be answered inside the book. Fortunately for you, the book is on sale on my website today. Just go find the link down below in the description. For my Patreon subscribers, as well as those who have donated to my GoFundMe, I sent out an access code a few weeks ago. At checkout, just enter that access code and you'll get the book absolutely free of charge. Back in May of 2022, I fell down a ravine. I had surgery on my left knee to repair a very nasty tear that left me unable to walk. I'm on the mend now, and I'm relearning how to walk. I've got another 6 months of recovery time, so if you could donate whatever you can and or buy the book, you'd really be helping me out. Thanks a bunch for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next Confessions of a Retired Tango Teacher. Bye!